Welcome to Cashflow Chaos, the real estate podcast where ROI meets WTF.
I'm Chad, checking in from the rainy streets and hot market to Washington State.
And I'm Kate, holding it down in southern New Hampshire where the flips are fast and the tenants are interesting.
Each week, we bring you market updates, money moves, and the madness behind the deals.
Because every property has a little drama.
Learn from the chaos and build the cash flow.
We'd love to start by introducing ourselves and telling you a little bit about how we got into real estate and our background, so that way you guys can get to know us and, hopefully we can get to know you a little bit. So Chad, can you let us know, how did you get started in real estate?
Well, I got started back when COVID was acting silly and everything shut down the blue collar field, shut down our job site. I was a commercial electrician at the time. And I was already listening to podcasts on the way to and from work because it was an hour and a half commute each way.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, I don't miss it at all. And but once that happened, that just kind of lit the fire under me to get after it and take matters in my own hands. What about you?
So I actually started in real estate. I worked for a property management company and Century 21 for in college. High school, when you do that kind of work study shadowing stuff, maybe like your senior year, because I had enough credits based on the previous years and whatever, taking AP classes and stuff. So I was able to do kind of a work shadow starting in the September of my senior year, and I worked at Century 21 and property management company, and then I got licensed when I was 18 in Massachusetts. I'm licensed in Mass and New Hampshire now. And I was always interested. My father he had his own construction business and had always pushed real estate. So from a very young age, I was pretty interested, and, it took a few years to kind of build up the courage to get my first property. I think I was like 28 when I got my first multi in New Hampshire. And then from there, we've just been trying to add on more properties and expand our portfolio and, continue to learn. So what was maybe one of your biggest challenges, you think, getting started?
Oh, money for sure. Like I always had good credit because grew up broke, so budgeting was always big in our house. Um, so I had good credit. I just didn't have much money because again, I was a tradesman and I did what every tradesman does. Like lifestyle creep got me. Um, got the
Yeah.
house, the truck, the toys, and all that shit. And then and I was like, oh wait, I bought the house. I was like, I have equity. So I started exploring how to leverage debt and all that stuff, and that's what got me started. And then I sold off the toys and got rid of the bullshit and lowered expenses.
Right.
Yeah, that was
Depreciating assets that are just gonna make you lose money and not gain money, for sure.
yeah, and just made financial freedom that further out to attain.
Yep. So
What
what
about
was
you?
maybe one? Oh,
Well,
go
no,
ahead.
and now what's one of your challenges when you started?
One of my challenges, I think the biggest issue for me was just thinking that I needed to have like this perfect credit to get the best rate. And now when people come to me new to real estate asking for advice, I'm like, do it today, don't wait, because having a little bit of a higher interest rate now is not a big deal as long as, the numbers make sense, jump for it. And also listening to family members who are not in that field. My mother definitely was a huge deterrent for me waiting so long. So I think I finished my bachelor's degree in, I forget what year it was, 2010. And I had saved up the money, maybe like 15 grand over a few years to get my first multifamily. And then my mother was like, don't do that. It's, such a headache, because when her and my father were younger, they had one, and my father was a bit of a hothead, and he passed when I was 20, so I can share the story because he won't get arrested. But he basically pulled somebody out of the building, I think maybe tossed them off like a second floor deck that owed him money for rent. So, my mother was like, let's get rid of this property because you're going to end up in jail. So I think that she had that stigma behind it, that maybe I would end up in a similar situation because I'm very much like my father. So I, instead of in 2010 buying a multifamily, also back to the credit thing, when I was 18, just like a lot of kids do, they have this money now on a credit card and they blow up their credit. So I had spent a long time building it back up. And I was probably like still low 700, but I was like, I want excellent credit to get the best rate. So I ended up waiting another 6 whole years because I decided to spend that money on my master's degree instead. And in hindsight, of course, I'm like, I should have just put it into a multifamily because I would have so much more equity now and so many more properties. But I waited another 6 years until I was finally like, no, I'm just gonna do it. And then I did it, and it's definitely been like the best decision. And I would highly recommend too anybody who's maybe has a family or is looking into real estate. I very much recommend against starting with a single family property because once you have that, it's very difficult to then get a multifamily. I would recommend, what's the saying where you kind of like push off your like instant gratification. I feel like we're very much in like an instant gratification type of environment. So, my family thought I was crazy. I took my baby and I moved into a four family in ghetto neighborhood in a city, when I had a good job at that time. I finished my master's and I could have easily got a nice house in a nice neighborhood, but I saw the writing on the wall and I didn't want to just be surviving to pay for my house. So I moved her into an apartment, and then from there on we moved up, and then we got a single family and just continued to add to our portfolio. But what was your question again?
Yeah.
How I got started? I kind of took you through a long path of bumpy roads how I got
Yeah.
started.
No, that's cool. It was what was your biggest challenges getting started?
Yeah,
But
yeah. So those, yeah,
you
family
covered it.
and taking perfect credit needs to be there. Just jump into it. If you can get a loan and the numbers work and your credit's shit, still do it. I mean, you could
Yeah.
always refinance later when you build your credit a little bit higher and maybe get a better rate.
Well, yeah, and you'll hear a lot of people say, what is it? Time in the market versus time in the market. Because I have other
Yeah,
military friends that are, oh, I'm waiting for the crash. I'm like, good fucking luck, man. It's like, just
yeah,
get it. Especially like with them, they can use a VA loan. It's like, you're still like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you could wait for the crash and it could go up another 20%. And then a lot of people I know that were of the same mindset, or they were like waiting for their credit to get better. And, I have a lot of stories of those situations where I was really saying, just do it, just do it, just do it. And now a lot of family members are just priced out of the market. They can't even get a loan because, everything's so expensive where we are. It's doubled in price in the last like 5 to 7 years.
you know.
So, yeah.
So
So
what,
what would you say maybe was like a quick, maybe like chaos moment from your early investing career?
um, aside from break-in, I would say, all right, fuck it. Um, one chaos moment would be, well, the house we were flipping or we're working on, the neighboring house we were trying to buy too because it was abandoned. The guy was locked up, but the squatters beat
Sounds
us
like a
to
great
it.
neighborhood.
It was a great neighborhood. There was like, it wasn't just us. There was like four other investors targeting that neighborhood and just renovating it. And
Yeah.
it's an older neighborhood. It's like the houses are from the 80s, early 80s. Gosh, they were breaking in, stealing the appliances out, and they kept looking over at us. So I just kind of took the pistol out, clipped it to the 5 gallon paint can, and waved high. Just kept painting and told them, "Don't mess with my life savings because I don't call the cops." And then just kept painting. That
Guys,
was
this is for entertainment purposes only.
I was legal. I was legal to carry. It's an open carry state here in Washington
Shockingly,
for now.
for now.
What was one of your earlier chaos moments in your career?
Um, I would just say probably when the first multifamily I bought, I was anxious and a little naive still. And even though I had been around real estate for a long time, I was trusting of people. That will go away pretty quickly in this industry. I was pretty trusting of people, and the seller had scheduled that last final walkthrough. You have like that 24 hours before you close to do like quick check, make sure everything we agreed to was done. And I don't have a personal background in construction, so I wasn't very knowledgeable about what something should look like before or after. For example, the shit pipe was supposed to be replaced, and he said he did. And then I found out, after I went, he ran me through the walkthrough kind of quickly and looked okay. And according to him, he seemed like an up and up person. And I found out after I closed and went back that the sewer pipe was still leaking, and it was kind of not something I was expecting when I first bought the house. And it was my first property. I was broke. Every single last penny went into, that house. I was living on ramen noodle diet for the next like couple months to get my money back up. So definitely not something I was expecting. So the one suggestion I can make is, if you aren't knowledgeable in that area, bring somebody with you who is, and make sure you really go through with the checklist. I love my list. So go through with the checklist and make sure everything that they said that they were going to have done before the closing is done and to the correct standards. So that would be my probably really early on thing that went wrong. But I mean, that's nothing now compared to what I've seen over the years.
Awesome.
Yeah, so awesome. Great. Why don't we get into maybe talking a little bit about what the podcast is going to be about? Seeing this is our first episode, I'd love to kind of introduce people to what they can expect going forward.
Yeah. So one thing we're going to do is we'll have weekly real estate insights that actually matter. It's not just a bunch of fluff without stuff. Um, not like we're not going to woes me about 2008, 2009, whatever the hell happened back then. Um, it's what's going on currently, what's moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to share some stories, from the trenches, tenant chaos, contractor disasters. I'm sure we have a lot. We'd also love to hear from our audience. We'd love to feature you if anybody would like to come on the podcast. We're happy to have you on as a guest. If you'd like to write in your stories too, we can also read those for you and, give maybe your first name if you'd like. You can email us at cashflowandchaos@gmail. Happy to share those stories too.
And we're also going to go over like tactical lessons without the guru nonsense. So we're not like Kate and I don't have Lamborghinis. We just have vehicles. Like
I have a 2009 Toyota Corolla. Actually, I just downgraded from my Honda Pilot because I don't care about cars.
I got a 2008 Toyota Tacoma, with a canopy, 160,000 miles, and I got at least another 150 left. Um,
Sweet. Mine has like
well,
84 now, but I bought it again in September with like 75. So
uh,
I'm good for like 5 or 10 years at least.
yeah, and mine's a little four cylinder, so it just sips on gas. Um,
Nice. Mine too. Yeah,
but
I think I bought gas like once in the past 3 weeks.
you know, and we're not gonna have fake screenshots. We're not gonna do like it's just real shit, real numbers, real math, cash flow breakdowns, financing hacks, and when to walk away from a deal because it's not emotional, it's business overall.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want to help you guys learn how to underwrite deals. My background is actually in finance and accounting. I have a master's degree in that area. And I love, definitely, as Chad likes to tell me, I'm like a nerd and love running my Excel spreadsheet. So I'd love to help you guys work through underwriting and make sure you know what you're getting is a deal. And we don't want to rush into buying a property. The market's tough right now. It's very competitive. So you're going to have to put in a lot of legwork before you find a deal. It's just facts of the matter right now.
Yeah. And my strong suit was construction, so computer stuff not my forte. Because I just
Yep.
discovered mine's older than dirt.
And we're going to do monthly market updates. They're helpful to you. We'd love to talk about get some mortgage people on, maybe talk about where rates are going. We're going to build this around investors who want clarity and, not hype. And we're just going to go through basically. And, we're happy to accept any feedback as well. If you guys are interested in certain topics, we'd love to deep dive them for you and then bring you what you're interested in.
And then again, like any listener submitted chaos stories too. Like those are always good entertainment and enjoyable to read for me. Yeah. It's just we have to vet somewhere and this is one place you guys can get it out.
Yep. And then we'd like to do a chaos story of the week, and I can lead that for this week. Moment when I questioned my life decisions in real estate. So I do a lot of Section 8 rentals, and sometimes I could maybe, and I recommend you do very thorough background checks. And sometimes I've used systems actually, which that could be a whole episode as well. But they have not been finding background stuff that should be showing. And I realized that after I had a couple of shitty tenants, and I was like, these people must have a record. Like, you could just, they were doing stuff that just definitely leaned that way. Like, the neighboring people were saying they were like drug dealing or whatever. So I was like, let me Google them. And I had found stuff that my paid background checking systems, and I've tried probably 3 to 5 over the last 10 years. They didn't find anything. They were coming up, no, nothing, no criminal history. And then I would just Google their name, and I was seeing a rap sheet a mile long about like fentanyl charges and domestic assault and battery. And I'm like, wonderful. So this had happened with a tenant a couple years ago. And I had this guy in a 1 bedroom apartment. He moved in his girlfriend. He wasn't supposed to move in. And I don't know, anybody who has experience with apartments will tell you that when people smoke in the apartment, it's very difficult to get that smell out. Back when I had my first building, I would clean it myself, and I would get like swollen eyes because I would be like wipe it's like oil. It's like an oil all over the walls and shit. So you'd have to wipe it down before you paint it because it would just be like nicotine dripping. And it was so disgusting. You'd have to put like ozone machines in there to try to get the smell out after you clean everything by hand, wiping it down and then repainting with, putting some kills to try to kill the smell and then repainting with regular paint. So I don't want people smoking in my apartment. So that's definitely something I am very strict on. So this guy came in, he was smoking to the point my husband Dan was working in the basement. He could smell cigarette smoke down in the basement from that apartment. Like, it was that thick. They would just like clam bake this place with cigarette smoke. And I was like, you need to stop smoking in there. And he was pissed that I told him that. So I was like, fine, I'm going to throw all my cigarette butts all over the walkway. I was like, fucking bet, try it, dude. So he did. I was pissed. So I'm over there on the door. All right, calm down. I'm over there on the door. He's not answering, so I'm calling him. I'm calling him. All right, everybody's safe. I'm calling him. He answers and he's like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "Go clean all those sticker butts out of the walkway. That's so disrespectful." I think he said something like "fuck you," and then hung up the phone on me. And I was like, "Oh, this motherfucker." So I immediately started the eviction process, and maybe like a day or two before he knew he was really going to get evicted, he called me. He's like, "What can I do, to make this better?" I'm like, "Probably nothing, dude. Since you've disrespected me and you've thrown cigarettes all over my property, you haven't paid your rent." And his rent was like, I think like $300, and housing was paying the rest. So, I'm totally understanding when someone's like respectful to me, and if they're just like having a hard time, I'll work with them. But if you're going to be a total prick to me and also not pay your rent and violate, pretty important parts of your lease to me, like I was fine that he moved in his girlfriend, that wasn't really a big deal to me. She was very nice. So I was happy to kind of, I'll overlook certain things, but at some point it's like you're now destroying my property and just being very disrespectful. So I don't put up with that. But it was definitely I love when that happens and I get to watch them get evicted. I know that sounds a little psychotic, but when they're just really rude and assholes, like, it doesn't bother me. And he walked
It's
down the
karma.
walkway with, huh?
I said it's karma.
Yeah, and I got to see him leave, and then it was awesome. But unfortunately, he also left about $3,000 the damages because of infesting the unit with bed bugs. But I look at it with the silver lining because at least all that happened and I was able to get him out before they had spread to the other 3 units in the building. So, we just tossed everything, and it actually kind of sucked because I had used that as an Airbnb years before. So it was fully furnished. So I owned all the furniture, and we even tossed like the TV because bed bugs could get like in the TV and
Oh,
potentially
yeah.
lay eggs. So we just swept that place clean. So I didn't refurnish it or anything, but that was also a loss because I had paid for the TV and the couches and the bed frame, kitchen furniture and stuff. But just part of real estate. You just got to make sure you can weather those type of storms. It's not going to be just sit back, passive income, sunshine, rainbows, and butterflies by any means of the imagination.
That
So,
whoever thinks it's passive, they're full of shit.
oh, it's not. Hey, it's not passive at all. It's definitely, I mean, there could be some days or even maybe weeks where it's super quiet, and then all of a sudden it's like maintenance request, bitching about this, bitching about that. I'm like, oh my goodness. But, you know, it's part of the territory. It's a little hard sometimes when it's like, sometimes they think that you're like the concierge service and not just like the property owner or manager, and they expect things that are just unreasonable. So that's when it gets a little stressful. Of course, like anything that is normal, reasonable things like I have water leaking, things like that. Of course, we're gonna come take care of that. But some things are just out there. But my takeaway for that is,
What are a
just
couple takeaways from that instance?
yeah. So my takeaway is definitely do your research on your background checking software and don't skip out on really making sure you get a hold of at least one prior reference and make sure it's a landlord reference and not just a friend that they're saying is like a prior landlord. Like look up the address and cross-reference it with the name that they gave you. And then, just do your due diligence. And sometimes software is not perfect either, and it's not going to pull stuff that you need.
Yep.
But yeah, that's my story of the week.
No,
And
that's
again, if
awesome.
anybody wants to share their stories or call in, be a guest on our podcast, we'd love to have you. If you have other topics outside of, just disastrous tenant stories, we're happy to feature those too and, have you on. Again, email us at cashflowandchaos@gmail.com. You can also download our free real estate investor checklist. And I think we might be able to put on YouTube. We're new to this, so bear with us. I think we could put like a little clickable link for you to get to that list. So we'll try to do that. If not, just disregard what I'm saying. But you can go to cashflowandchaos.com/podcast. See, and then you will find the place to enter your email and you'll get sent a copy of that checklist for you to make sure you know what questions to ask and the 10 red flags that we wish we knew earlier when we started investing.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thanks so much for watching. It's our first episode, so tune in for a few more. We're going to, of course, clean this up, streamline, and we hope to hear your feedback. So definitely give us a shout out, email us, and don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, all the good things. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Bye.
Yay.